Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
I heard a scream.
You've been having nightmares for weeks, sweetie.
It wasn't a dream.
Well, sometimes it's hard to tell.
No, I heard it, Mum.
You should definitely go to the cops.
What would I say? Like, hello, officer, I know who the killer is. We share a hedge.
What are you up to?
Where's Susan Miller?
I don't know why you're here. You should be next door.
Who exactly do you think is in there?
Police.
He hunts. He captures. He tortures. He kills.
Don't know what to do anymore. I just want you to believe me.
We have to go in. This is not a normal teenage dilemma.
7 people are dead.
There's nothing here.
What was that?
Liam, get out of there now! Stay away from me!
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 451. Releasing August 18 in Australian cinemas is Girl at the Window, a psychological thriller that tells the story of a teenage girl who is convinced her neighbour is a serial killer, a suspicion that is not shared by the police or her family who believe she has gone mad. Starring Ella Newton, Radha Mitchell, and Vince Colosimo, Girl at the Window is a twist-filled thriller that deals with themes of obsession and doubt. And joining me now on the podcast is the director of Girl at the Window, Mark Hartley. Mark, I thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you. Only took you 451 episodes to chat to me.
Yes, sir. Well, you know. Well, it is interesting that you say that because this is your first film that you had since the Patrick remake some several years back. And the script for this movie, Girl at the Window, it's originally written by Terrence Hammond. He had kind of like the original story for it. So I'm curious, so when you get Terrence's initial script, what was it about the script, the story that really spoke to you that this would be your next film?
Sure. I actually did make Electric Boogaloo after that.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, look, I mean, when you say it's based on an original script by Terrence was involved in the script all the way through. So it's not like we just took the script from Terrence and then totally rewrote it or anything. It started out as a script that he'd written called Eyes. And when I read it, I really liked it because both Tony Ganane, the producer, and I were looking for a feature that we could make, from a modest budget and just basically go in there and shoot it and not have to spend years in development. And Terrence's script, all I said to him, I think, was, I don't think we need so much backstory for the villain. Mm-hmm. I think people are very willing to accept that there are bad people out there who do bad things, and that's kind of good enough for a lot of people these days. And we just basically, as we kept on, as the budget, as the schedule, more importantly, kept on getting tighter and tighter and tighter, we just kept on refining it and bringing it down to, a smaller film in a way, but one that was a lot more based around the two houses side by side. In Terrence's original script, there was scenes in a hospital, there was an ambulance chase and all this kind of stuff, which we got rid of because we thought if we focus it down, it's going to be much, kind of more personal between the mother, the daughter, and the killer.
Nicolette Minster came in a little later to help with the screenplay. And it's really interesting because her background is more kind of like in comedies. with, she did the Kinney show, and she was also an actress in that, and she did some children's entertainment as well. So this is kind of a different kind of territory for her. Why did you bring Nicolette in, and what was it like working with her on the script?
Well, Nicolette didn't touch any of the thriller elements. We brought in Nicolette because Terence and myself are hardly the voice of a younger generation. Right. And we needed someone to come in and really just work the kids' dialogue, the teens' dialogue, so that it felt real, and also work on the mother-daughter dialogue, so that felt a lot more genuine as well. So that's what Nicolette did. She came in and really lent her voice and her humour to making those kids' personality shine in the script.
I heard in an interview that your aim for this movie was kind of like to make an Amblin movie if Toby Hooper directed it, which is a great quote. Is that something that really was kind of like a direction that you had in those initial stages of looking over Terence's script? You were like, this is the kind of like the goal that I had for this movie, or is that something that kind of develops as you kind of go along and develop the project?
I think that sensibility I kind of voiced when it came to how we were actually going to shoot the film, what the soundtrack was going to be like, the aesthetic of the film. And so I said to both Jamie, the composer, and Gary, my cinematographer, let's think of it as a throwback Amblin movie that's sort of a bit freewheeling, a bit fun, but then kind of turns and veers into dangerous territory every now and then. And I think Jamie's score certainly does that. It's kind of very rollicking and fun, and then it can turn quite dark when it needs to. But we always thought of the film as like a throwback. And I remember saying to Tony early on, I said, look, we could easily make this and it could resemble a Lifetime movie, but let's not do that. Let's give it some elements that really do sort of make it something a little bit more. And I said, I remember when I was a kid going and seeing things like The Howling and American Werewolf in London, and they just had slightly edgy content that I thought, wow, I can't believe as a kid I'm looking at this. And I wanted there to be a few little elements like that in Girl at the Window. And there is, to some degree, there's a bit of nudity, which no one really expects. And there's a couple of sort of horrific shots, which no one expects, amongst kind of the mystery and the fun.
Ella Newton is she's the lead in the movie, and her role is really interesting in that it's a portrayal that really needs physical element to it. She kind of like gets down and gritty in the film, but also there's like a strong kind of emotional element to it too. I think it would be a big ask to try to find anyone to fill both aspects of that role. What was it about Ella that when you found her, you knew that she would be kind of like your version of a Nancy Drew in this movie?
Well, that's exactly right. I did want it to echo Nancy Drew. Look, she sent a tape in, and I just thought that she was great. And then I watched a couple of Sea Change episodes, the reboot of Sea Change that she'd been in, playing Siggy's daughter, and met with her, and she was just fantastic. She was just fantastic. And when we got Karis and her together to do an audition for Karis, they just clicked, and I knew I'd found my couple. And they were both great. And Ella particularly was just someone who, is really fun and not overly serious about the craft all the time. But as soon as, you're ready to do a take, she locks into it and she just delivers. It's amazing. She has a fantastic sequence where she just sort of, she cries when she's talking about her father, and she was gung-ho in terms of working with stunties and doing as much of the work as possible. And it was great. It was her first feature film, and both her and Karis were so excited, that it just it made everyone feel a lot more alive on the film.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. It's interesting that I read a quote from Ella, where she says that to her the role is almost political in nature, and that here is a character who, as a woman, as a young woman, says that something's happening in her life and no one believes her, and that kind of feeds into a lot of the kind of social things that were especially happening around the time you were filming this movie, which I think was back in 2019, 2020. I think you were filming this, maybe.
No, we're only filming it last November.
There we go.
Yeah.
Did you find that element as well in regards to that character? There was kind of like a political nature to it that she kind of like connected with?
Well, look, I think when we pitched the film, it was that it was going to be something that was a little bit deeper than your typical, girl who cried wolf thriller. In the fact that in the zeitgeist at the time, there was that notion that there are a lot of women not being heard and not being believed. And, I know Nicolette also really liked that element of it. And obviously, put a bit of her female instinct behind that narrative. And yeah, Ella's right. I mean, we didn't sort of talk about it as being, a large part of the film, but it's certainly, a large part of her character.
Another theme in the movie is that of obsession. And, from Vertigo all the way to Zodiac, cinema has been filled with kind of obsessive characters. And I think the reason why audiences like these characters is because they're willing to kind of walk down the dark paths that we don't want to go down. I don't know about you, Mark, but if I heard a scream coming from my next door neighbor, there's no bloody way I'm checking out that person's shed. So to have like someone in the movie do it's kind of like an interesting conduit to kind of go into darker territory. Do you think that's a reason why the characters like that are so popular with audiences, because they're willing to go down those dark paths that normal people wouldn't go?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's interesting with sort of your voyeuristic films, everything from Rear Window to Disturbia to Body Double. Most of the time, they're all male protagonists too, and we sort of had a female protagonist, which is kind of interesting. But look, I think things are different in the country as well. I kind of grew up sort of semi-rural, and when I was a kid, we had no trouble leaving our door unlocked or just going, knocking on the neighbour's door and checking things out. So maybe it's got something to do with a more of a country sensibility as well.
Yeah, and her character, from what I remember in the film, she's a city mouse, right? And moved into the country. Is that correct?
No, they kind of lived on the other side of the city, on the other side of the country town, because she still goes to the same school.
Right.
They've just moved house. Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the look of the movie. I mean, you mentioned before that you worked with Gary Richards, and you and Gary have worked on the majority of your projects before. When it came to the look of what you want to do with this film, I find the movie to look just fantastic in the visual element of it. How much discussion do you have with Gary in regards to that? Or by the time that you hit girl at the window, is it a thing where you both kind of like have almost kind of like an organic sense? You know exactly what you want from one another before filming a movie?
Well, on set, we certainly have a shorthand, and we don't need to talk that much, and we know exactly what we need to do because we need to be prepared, because we know how many setups we have to do a day, and it is insane the amount of setups we have to do a day on. This is only a 19-day shoot. But look, yeah, I probably collaborate with Gary a lot closer than most director DOPs. We've worked with each other for almost 30 years, and we get together, for as long as we can before in pre-production. On Patrick, we had a lot of time because we had to wait for Charles Dance to finish his block on Game of Thrones. We had a window where he was available. On this film, we didn't have a lot of time. It was basically, okay, we shoot in 6 weeks. So we got together as many days as we could, and we just shot listed from first frame to last frame. And our shot lists are really, really detailed. They're more like edit lists in a way, where we pre-plan everything. And of course, we know we can't achieve everything, but if we know what we want to get, and we know that amongst those 10 shots in that scene, there's one that is a shot that really shows that, we care about this project and we're kicking a little bit above our weight, then, it's good to know that stuff going onto the set. In terms of aesthetic, on Patrick, we watched lots and lots of films. On this one, we didn't have the time. And I think by now we had our own aesthetic going. So we just knew how we wanted to cover stuff and to stage scenes. And it was amazing sitting there and just offering suggestions, because most of the time we'd have the same idea in mind when we were doing it. And obviously we are paying homage to some of our favorite directors. It's interesting with both this and Patrick, we're not so much paying homage to Hitchcock, but we're paying homage to his acolytes. So people like Brian De Palma and Dario Argento and Richard Franklin. And certainly, we love diopter shots and split screens and things like that. So we went back and did look at a lot of Robert Weiss films for the best use of diopters and so forth.
Well, have you had a chance yet to watch this with an audience? Has there been any type of screenings where you can see where an audience reaction to the different elements
Not a
and
real
twists
audience.
in the movie?
Not a real audience, no. The only screening we had was a cast and crew screening. And it's funny, we survived the whole of the shoot without having one cast or crew member get COVID. And if they had, we would have been totally shut down and the film would have happened. But when it came to the cast and crew screening, the audience was decimated by COVID. None of the producers were there. Half the cast weren't there. It seemed like everyone had COVID at that point later on. So no, I've only seen it with a limited cast and crew who knew the film intimately anyway.
Well, I got to say, I really enjoyed watching Girl at the Window. And I think the big reason why I enjoyed watching it is because having watched, a lot of films both here in Australia and in the States as well, sometimes I find missing in Australian cinemas is just that genre aspect to the filmmaking. And I really appreciate what you've done here with this movie. And for everyone listening, Girl at the Window in cinemas, August 18, all across Australia. I do recommend people see it on the big screen because it's a gorgeous film to look at. And I think as well, Mark, this is a movie that you need to watch with an audience because it's the type of film where you need to feed off everyone else's energy, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting genre film, I think, in a way, because it seems, I've said this a couple of times now, but it seems to me now that there's only either really extreme genre films or really arty genre films, and there's no real middle ground anymore.
Yeah.
And we set out to make a film that very firmly sits in that middle ground. In a way, it's a genre film for people who don't necessarily embrace genre films.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it starts off as a fun mystery movie.
Well, it's what they call a popcorn thriller in a lot of ways, isn't it? I think so anyway.
Yeah, hopefully. Look, I just hope audiences, react to the twists and turns.
I did, that's for sure. I mean, there's some of these things I didn't see coming whatsoever. And so everyone out there listening, please do check out Girl at the Window, August 18, Australian cinema. Support Australian films. Watch this on the biggest screen as possible, like I said, because it's gorgeous to look at. I think the job that you and Gary did was just really phenomenal and just great job all around. And Mark, I thank you so very much for your time today. Hopefully we get to talk again before another 451 episodes go by.
Sure. Okay. We'll slot in 562 right now.
Yes, sir. Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.